the shore. But yeah, it's a slow drift, and it's all the more easier with all the distractions we have today and all the everything vying for our attention. So yeah, you have to say, okay, man, this is where I want to go, and this is how I'm going to get it. And hands down, the home ownership is the easiest path to wealth in the United States. I didn't say the most comfortable path, but I said the easiest. It's much easier, because even if the market goes down, if you're not now, if you're an investor, you may have to worry about that if prices go down. But if you're in a mortgage that you can afford comfortably, you don't have to sell.
Welcome to another episode of Bet on T. Craig. We are here with not only Chase Sloan, but the amazing Glen Gayden, the one and only, the phenomenon. He is one to not be toyed with. Please bless the people with your presence today.
I will do it. I will do it gladly. Thanks for having me, Randy. Thanks for having me, Chase. It's always lovely to hang out with you, even more so in front of the camera. So I'm excited. I can't wait to get started here.
I know you like that.
I love it. I love it.
Story to tell.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh man, guys with eye patches always have stories to tell. That's that's no problem.
Look, I just want to understand, not only how long have you been in the real estate industry, but also kind of like what got you started down this path.
Well, about 20 years now. This is my 20th year.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Or condolences if either one you
like. Are you okay?
I still have my hair. That's amazing. I haven't had any more heart attacks since the last one, so that's good too. But no, I didn't have a choice. I had little to no opportunity due to my ridiculous behavior as a child and my lack of paying attention in school. So it was either 180 hours or work my way up through the Piggly Wiggly or the Kroger or something like that. So I chose the real estate side, and then it worked out well. It worked out tremendously. So I couldn't be more pleased with the people I've met, the things that I've learned, the experiences I've had. It's been great. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
What would you look to tell, I guess you could say, your younger self, as far as things to pursue or things not to do? And then also it's twofold, just to add to it, is because of the current, generation that we're in, seeing all the opportunities that are available. So how would you then look to and maybe prepare the next 18-year-old or
the next 18-year-old? I'd tell them do something else is what I would do.
Do something else besides real estate?
Now these days, yes, do something else. It was a little bit different when I got into it. But if I could go back and talk to myself, I would say manage your database as good as you can. Keep up with people consistently, whether they're doing business with you or they have done business with you, and just always focus in on those folks that already know, like, and trust you. Because I got caught in that expired stuff and for sale by owner stuff, and Chase knows all about that too. I'm sure you do. That's just it's a constant every day. You got to go out, win them over, and it's more difficult, and it's already a long shot that you last more than 6 months in this business. So doing it like always daily, being judged, and always never having that trust established before you knock on the door makes it all the more difficult. And so that's why I'd say focus more on the people that you already know, like, and trust you, and make good friends, good connections. Stop hanging out with people that aren't going to really benefit you. You got to put kind of business first. People that aren't going to be a benefit to the business, you gotta kind of
cut those.
Yeah, cut may be harsh, but just less time.
Remove yourself.
Less time, because if you have the mindset you're always working, so everything you can do or everything that you're doing should be purposeful. And if you're joining a group or you're getting involved in the community, whatever you're doing, I mean, everybody knows that you're kind of full of it. You're here to get some business, no matter how much it gets you.
Well, you talk about that. And one of the things when you say talking about your database and making sure that you keep that in order, it really just comes down to relationships. And I just know, like I said, we've known each other all for quite some time. I think maintaining relationships is a strength of yours. So, I mean,
well, see, I like you. So, right. So it's very easy. It's very easy.
I can maintain a relationship with you.
Yes, we've had very easy go of it. We have had little pushback or little trouble at all in our relationship. So it's always been really fun. If anybody knows Chase, he's one of the sweetest, warmest people you could ever meet. And you know, I love her dearly, and I don't care who knows it, and I don't care if you're jealous, Randy. Uh, yeah, I mean, that's
Well
so.
protected,
So
well respected.
that would be an example of
Good relationships.
good relationships, right? I could hang out with or keep up with other people that are, not as dare I say useful and joyous to be around as Chase. But you got to be strategic with your alliances, and this is a perfect example of one. She it wasn't even a hesitation. She said you guys were launching a podcast or had one going. I was right on down here. It didn't matter how far I had to go.
Right.
You want me back again, I'll be here again.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, but to circle back to it, maintain your relationships. If you're going to do the college thing, or you're going to do any kind of training outside of just the requirements to get the license, you need to be strategic with who you're talking to, who you're hanging out with,
Mhm.
who their family are, all those sorts of things. They can all like come into real big effect down the line. You may not see it at the moment,
Right.
but it can really play a big part in your life down the line.
And I think what you said, that's actually like very key is how you mentioned the keyword useful. And I think a lot of people don't like to really hone in on that. But I think if some relationships aren't serving you, why continue to pour into them?
Yeah.
Because it's like it's either they're going to be a net positive or they're going to be a net negative.
Yeah.
And I mean, life is already too short.
It's qualifying. It's qualifying who you have in your life. I think sometimes we assume relationships are automatic. That you know them, I know that. So we all it's a hundreds off bat, and sometimes it's not like that. It takes investment, right?
Mhm.
Somebody said a relationship is a sum of conversations that you have with another person.
Mhm.
Like that's at the end of the day, and so being able to stay in touch and stay in relationship, whether that's how it starts, okay, this is an opportunity to grow my business, or you come back and look at it like I'm really glad I did.
Mhm.
Yeah. So just be purposeful and keep up with the times. I mean, we are in the age of AI, and
Right.
you've got to be able to implement these things into your business, and can't fight it, can't be mad at it. And I've done, I didn't want to mention this, but I'm going to mention it. I've actually, do you know about the revolution, Randy? Have you heard about the revolution?
The
About you
revolution.
know about the revolution?
It sounds.
There's an AI revolution, and I'm
Okay.
at the forefront of it. I just launched another company today.
Okay.
So I've done all the legwork for you.
Let's get
Okay,
it.
you don't have to go through each one of these sites, figure out what they do, how they work in correspondence with one another. All you have to do is go to aialchemy.pro. That's aialchemy.pro. And I've got everything lined up for you. All the websites, what they do, how they work together, how it benefits your business, how it benefits your life. And the best of it is all free. So, right, you just subscribe you subscribe for the access to the list. I've got everything out there for you. You just pop on, and the next thing you know, you've implemented a ton of AI, weeded through the pretending or the convincing, but not necessarily performing stuff that's out there, and you've got the most cost-effective approach to your business and the most impact on your business, utilizing all these tools that are so rapidly being thrusted out there and so rapidly, needing to be acclimated into everyday life, because it's a day by day thing. I mean, there's more and more that's coming out. I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard. I just was on the phone with them on the way up here. Have you guys heard of Air, the AI salesperson? You may have seen this. So it's a 100% AI interactive salesperson.
Okay.
That is, but they're doing it with like the Apple goggles, whatever those are. Tesla's using it, and look it up when you get a chance, because it's incredible. It has full on conversations with you, and like those expansive scripts that we used to have, like in Keller Williams and Bold and all that. Well, you can actually take those scripts, put it into the back end of this system, and it has all of the different ways that the conversation can go, and it stays on track, sets appointments for you, and it does it all for like 13 cents a minute. So
well, it's interesting. So when we talk about whether it's AI or like I said, back to relationships, it's really being able to position yourself to make a better decision, right?
Yes.
Even when we're talking just in life. I mean, we can relate it to business, and yet everything connects almost. And so how are you leveraging technology to help you make better decisions, not just to do it for you, right? And then it still spits out something you're like, yeah, I guess that sounds right. Like, how are you leveraging it just to be able to say, okay, this is the direction I'm choosing to go?
Well, you want to use things like search engine optimization, really, really big thing for websites, for any kind of business. Really, really huge. And what happens is that these companies, they charge you tons and tons and tons of money to hire an agency that's going to, get you the best keywords, make sure that you're optimized for the search engines. And I mean, there was a time I myself, 10, 15, $20,000 a month on this type of service. Now, using the right AI, it can be done for $99 a month. Put in the backlinks on your website. So it's not just a hands-off type of thing. You have to make sure that it's accurate what you're doing, and no matter what format you're on. So you don't want to just kind of churn and burn, spit stuff out, and make poor content or poor business decisions. But again, if utilized properly and put together or stacked properly, a lot of this stuff can just knock a huge hole in your overhead. Where I mean, you go from $20,000 a month to $99 a month, and you're getting the same results. So I mean, you can just imagine what kind of impact that would have on any business that is relying upon Google ads and pay per clicks and things like that. And that's just one example. I mean, there's tons. There's so much stuff that's coming out, and I've just been obsessing over it for since the launch of Chat GPT is really whenever
I think that was the kickstart for most people.
I got excited about it. And I just called everybody and it was like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm doing this. Well, that's stupid. Stop what you're doing and get on this website immediately.
Yeah.
And you need to start, getting creative with it. Like, it's not just like, okay, give me this. You've got to know how to prompt it. You've got to know how to put these systems together. But once you've done that, and we can help you with that at AIalchemy.pro, we can not only provide you with the list of the websites, but also how to implement them into your business, whatever your business may be.
How do you feel as if that, so from a real estate perspective, what about that personal feel? From actually building relationships and the client interface of, hey, yeah, we got you on underrepresentation, but then what does that actually look like if you're leveraging AI from that perspective?
Well, the way to look at like now, so what you would use this AIR software for is just to set an appointment or churn through data, because you don't have fatigue, you don't have deviation from the script, and once you see it, you'll be like, wow, that's pretty incredible. Like, I mean, it calls you, so you can put your phone number in there and you can call it. It'll call you, and then you have like a conversation with it. And and it's an English sounding guy too, so it's like really a good voice, But yeah, it's so just as far as if you're doing things like mass amount of appointments or working, circle prospecting or wholesaling, any of those types of things, this is really, really good once it gets to where it needs to be, and it will get there very, very soon. So yeah, you still have to do the personal touch. You'll still have to go on the appointments. You'll still have to, run your back end admin if you're doing it yourself, or if you have somebody. So you'll still need that. However, getting into the door or finding opportunity could be all the much more easy for the people that are, at the front of the pack when it comes to this sort of stuff.
Because I think it's true. Like, even with all this technology, personally speaking for myself, I still want that relationship. You still want people that you can, like you said, I say no, like touch, see, and feel. I got real fingers, right? There are times even now I'll say, you know what, I'm just going to go to the store because it's easier than the calls and the prompts and the things. And it's like, now let me just belly to belly. And it almost makes you wonder where are we going as it relates to just human connection, personal connection, and all of this technology.
That I don't know.
And not just in business, right? Not just from, okay, here are systems to help leverage your business, but just in general, like, where is that taking us when everything, when we're living the movie iRobot?
Yeah. Well, you can kind of liken it to where we're going when social media came out, right? It wasn't something that people. I still don't think it's all that pivotal to a real estate business. I think it helps, but I've been able to do a tremendous amount of business without spending a lot of time doing social media. I know a lot of people that do spend a lot of time. I know some do well, some don't. But I know that to do it the way that most people are doing it without the AI and without these types of things, it's an incredible demand on time. It's an incredible demand on time. So this is, to me, it's the same thing. So we had the social media revolution. Now I believe we're moving into the AI revolution, and we'll adapt it. And some will adapt it, some won't. Some will be like they are, just getting to the game now. Just kind of implementing social media in their business, never doing it. And some won't. Some will immediately go to, and the people that are, I think, which are on the ground floor are going to be the ones that get it, because you got to remember who your competitors are. They're not just you, me, and you, me anymore.
No,
now you got iBuyers, you've got hedge funds backed by the
Still
three
have-
companies that own everything in the world.
Yeah, it's a lot of big money in real estate right now. I don't know if a lot of times we're aware of that. Maybe it's always been like that.
Well, it's more like that now. So like these, do you ever wonder how these companies can be buying these homes, not profiting, losing money, and they're still in business? Like Open Door, OfferPad, they don't make money. It's all a part of, I'm going to get into my conspiracy theories here. They're not theories, they're facts. I just call that conspiracy. So they can call me a heretic. But no, so BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, those three companies own 88% of the stock market right now through different funds that they manage. And then you've got they also own Fox News, they own CNN, they own the food, they own everything. So now what they're coming for is they're coming for the residential real estate.
Yeah.
So they're on track right now to own 60% of the residential real estate that is in America. So essentially turning Americans into tenants, right? Because especially if you've been keeping up with the lawsuits, the NAR lawsuits, Keller Williams lawsuit with the sellers, the buyers. So what's going to happen starting January 1 in New York, you no longer, a seller can no longer pay a commission to a buyer's agent. So if you're a young fellow and you're wanting to buy a house, start or live a house, you got to come up with the down payment. You got to come up with the closing costs. You got to come up with the origination fees, all these other fees, and then you have to come up with another 3% to, or whatever the fee is for a buyer's agent, right? So you got to come up with that. Now flip that to these baby boomers that are ruining everything. I'm gonna just go on record and say it. They are ruining everything. These people, they refuse to die. They refuse to stop taking the medications. They got 20 of them a day. 20 of them a day, and they refuse to sell their house for a reasonable price. They refuse to, and they're the ones that own most of the real estate. So what's going to be their best option? Imagine you're born between 1945 and 1965, and you've got a $2 million house. I just explained that you're going to have to hire a buyer's agent to do it. That's a $60,000 commission. And then you're going to have to go through the showings. You have to go through that. Wouldn't it be much easier instead of $2 million to take 1.9 and skip all of that process and sell it on your timeline, on your terms, to a company that's 100% cash and is not going to bust out? I mean, so that's kind of what at least that's what I'm seeing. I only have one eye, so I might have missed it, but that's what I've been seeing as far as where things are headed.
So that was a lot, right? There are a lot of moving factors, and a lot of times we talk about just really the power of making a decision. And the way I look at it is like there's always going to be something, right? At no point is it ever going to just like gate portal open and it's like walk through, my child. It's gonna be something that's going on. Now we're talking about all the changes that are in real estate, and yet there's still opportunity.
Oh yeah, there's not going to be not opportunity. You just kind of have to
perform better.
Well, perform better, perform faster. That's the big thing. It's not even so much. It's faster, speed. That's what it is. It's speed, because like those competitors, what they have going for them is convenience and speed. So your OfferPad, Open Door, all these other, it's no, we don't have to talk to anybody. I can just submit my photos, I submit my address, and then boom, within 24 hours, I've got an offer on a TREC promulgated contract that is for this, and then that's it. And I pick my closing date, whether it's a week from now, 2 weeks from now, or 6 months from now. I think they have like a 3-month lock or whatever like that. But yeah, it's all on your schedule. So I think speed and convenience in this world that we're moving into is going to outpace necessarily quality. I think quality is good, but it's going to be the fastest and the most convenient. The people that can make this process the easiest on the seller or the buyer are going to be the ones that win the day.
It's interesting that you talk about quality, and then the other thing that I was going to mention is there still value to ownership then? If you're seeing all of these nuances and all of these things that are going on with the hedge funds and the group that you said is owning 60% of residential real estate, and all of these changes are happening. I mean, that's why a lot of people, you look up and they're like, see, no, I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to wait and Is there still benefit there? What is the benefit there, if so?
Yes, well, because like I said, the plan is to own by 2030 60% of the residential real estate market. That's the plan. So if you're getting into the real estate market now, you got to have somewhere to live. If you have, the ability to get the pre-approval, or not the pre-approval, but the actual loan approval, because we've been seeing a lot of trouble with these lenders lately too. They haven't been very.
They're using AI.
Yeah, exactly. Using AI, and they're,
The robot says you're good. Let's go.
yeah,
with
it's
it.
terrible.
real.
It's terrible. But
real.
yeah, if you can get into a home, it's still good to do, especially in a market like ours, because you never know what those homes are going to be worth come 2030. Because like there's a goal. We're all, we're on a train. We're not in the conductor's seat, right? We're in different, carts, I guess you can say.
Well, it goes back to the opportunity to own. So
Yeah.
right now you're saying like,
Do
okay,
it.
there's a bottleneck because baby boomers aren't selling, right? They're
There's
hanging on.
one of the reasons, yeah.
One of the reasons,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so what will that look like in 2030 or whatever point when, okay, now the 100% that we had, well, now 60% of that is off the table because they're now forever tenants, forever rental properties. And so now we're working from a smaller pot.
Yeah.
And a bigger demand. And that's why it keeps going back to when we're talking about supply and demand and just the underdevelopment.
Well, I think everybody should buy a house, live in it at least 2 years, take advantage of the capital gains, the tax exemption, and then sell it and do the same thing. I think where a lot of us, we make a mistake. We all could really be very financial free if we would sacrifice a little bit of our comfortability, if we wouldn't think so much about our kids' schools and things like that, because all these schools are nonsense and all these kids are bad no matter what school you go to. I can tell you, I have 2 children. I know exactly what I'm talking about, speaking from experience. So to keep them, to sacrifice that tax advantage and that incentive, that where if you're single, it's $250,000 of profits you don't pay any taxes on. If you're married, it's up to $500,000. If you do that 3 times, and we see a market increase like we've seen since 2019 of that, if you were to do that 2 times in the last 4 years and you did it 2 more before 2030, who knows? I mean, you could have $500,000 to $1 million just sitting in your bank, going into whatever vehicle you want from there, just from doing what you have to do. A basic need, you have to have shelter.
So you have to run that back, right? Because he just gave the whole game plan play. People usually, build this out over a span of 10 weeks and drip that information to you. And yet it's because there's this myth, well, I'll do it when I can have that dream home, perfect home, all that stuff, and yet not understanding really the behind the scenes workings that come with homeownership. Like it's beyond just let's stand and take a picture in front of the house, right? Like,
yeah.
So help people run it back.
Okay, so this is what you need to do. You need to buy a house with whatever's comfortable. I would recommend 20% down if you can do it. 20% down. That way you're avoiding private mortgage insurance, which is just another fee that the lender's going to charge you that doesn't go towards your balance or your principal or none of those things. It doesn't help. It's just an extra couple $100. It's not paying anything. So you buy a house. It doesn't matter if you guys are stacked on each other. It's not the dream home. That doesn't matter. We're not thinking about that. We're gonna sacrifice our comfortability for 5 to 10 years, and then we will get to where we want to go. Right? Just like with a career, just with anything. You can't, you don't start off as a CEO. You start off, you've been in the army. You don't start off.
You don't start off at the top.
A major or general or lieutenant, and those types of things. So you start off and you say, okay, this is 2 years. We're here for 2 years. As soon as we qualify for the exemption, we'll take a look at what the prices have done. And if the past is any indicator, I mean, what are we up 30%, 40% just over a couple years? So then you sell and then you keep the difference and you put it into another home. You do the same thing. And then you another 2 years of not the most comfortable living situation. You may not have the stupid open floor plan like you like, which I think is a bad idea anyway, because I think walls save marriages. So the more walls you can put between yourself and your wife, the more better your marriage is going to be.
Back to the intercom system.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's nothing worse than being in one of those open concepts and your wife or you are in there stewing in the kitchen and the other person is watching TV. You can't watch TV comfortably like that. So no, so you sacrifice that comfortability. You get you and your partner on the same page, and you guys have that plan where we're moving every 2-3 years max, unless something's happened to the prices, which we haven't seen that in a long time. There hasn't been a huge dive. It's been a steady uphill. And then you continue to do that, and you find something that returns at a 10%, 5 to 10% per year, and you put your nest egg in that. If you start that when you're 22, 24, by the time you're 35, you do what you want to do. You don't
Sitting on a
have
lot
to.
of equity.
Yeah, you don't have to. And tax free, that's the big thing. So if you're married, it's up to $500,000 in profit. You also get a break on your taxes too, your property taxes. So you do that, and you do that for 10 years. That's 5 times.
Right.
And let's just say perfect world, you do make the maximum amount. I mean, just if you made $500,000 in profits or $250,000 in profits every time you went and sold your house and didn't have to pay taxes on it, how would your life look?
So now,
Paying
I think
attention.
I think one of the biggest things to then also mention is that why are people not willing to make that sacrifice?
Because they don't know any better. I think. I think that people don't realize that how trivial their today wants, their today so-called needs, and their today desires are going to be to their self, the version of themselves 10 years from now. I mean, most people will look back. That's what most people do. They look back and go, oh gosh, I wish I'd have done that, or oh man, I should have done that. That's all you hear. I don't hear, I don't hear a lot of, man, I'm really glad I did that. I did that just by the book. Wasn't the most comfortable thing, but anything worth doing isn't. Nobody's comfortable. It's not about being comfortable. That's where we've gotten lost in this country, is that we're too comfortable. We want everything, within a stone's throw, and we're not willing to make the sacrifices that are going to give us the kind of life we want whenever we are, getting to 30, 40, even 50 years old, So, yeah, I just think it's and it's not people's today's problem. It's what worked yesterday doesn't work today. Like opening a savings account and paying off your mortgage and getting student loans. All that worked whenever our parents or their parents were going. I mean, you could go to college for $4,000 a year, or 2,000, or for the whole thing. Now people are getting out of college with hundreds of $1,000s of debt and and can't even find a job. End up
Very true.
a barkeep, or something like that, and or a real estate agent. 4 years of college.
Wait. So,
we hit home there.
No. So to then maximize, said opportunity about, every 2 years getting into a new home. What does that then look like, from the beginning of, do you purchase that home with someone, or do you purchase that home by yourself?
Yeah, because you're talking about 20%, right? And that's another objection, right? People are, well, it's too much for me to. I can afford the payment, but it's that upfront investment. And so, how do you go about making business decisions, life decisions, and then that goal setting to the now, or what's that first small step for you to get started, so that way you're not procrastinating and delaying because it's like, well, I'll never have that much. I'll never.
Well, if you have to live somewhere and you can't afford to buy, I would recommend you have to rent. I'd rent, the most uncomfortable place that I could rent. That way that I'm not kicking my feet up and enjoying this place. Like I would rent something that where if my family's in there, we're on top of each other, and it's as cost effective as possible, and it's pushing me and
to do
the other members of the family, if I am working in a family unit, to save and prepare for those things, instead of worrying about how do we pay off the landlord's mortgage.
It's about getting uncomfortable.
Yeah,
everything you're saying.
Yes, it's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. Is getting uncomfortable. If we can get away. I mean, Randy been through basic training and lots of military training. How comfortable were you during any of that?
I mean, they make it very uncomfortable on purpose.
Exactly. Why?
So that you have to grow.
And you have to, and you're prepared for war.
Now, yes, yeah, always. But now I think it's always like, so why aren't people willing to pay the dues necessary to become all that they can be?
Well, that I can't answer. You got to answer that for yourself, right?
True.
So I can't answer. I can't speak for everybody. I can speak for myself, because I did the same thing. I didn't do it either. I didn't do it because my wife would want to live here, and we want to keep the kids here and all this other thing. I didn't do the same thing either. So I'm telling you from a hindsight. Oh man, I wish I had done that, because things would be a lot easier for me now. I wouldn't have to do anything. Certainly wouldn't have to rob pirate ships and stuff like that.
So okay, so now I think this also adds then to business decisions, is that choosing a partner wisely, right? What would you suggest, people that are actually in their 20s
I
and
mean,
saying that they want to be in a committed relationship
I'd
or they
tell
want to think long term, what is that then?
I'd tell them look at the statistics of how
Okay.
those things work out. But I would say somebody's got to win the lottery. And that's damn near what the odds are for staying in a. I mean, I don't know. My son, he keeps up on stats and stuff. He says the average American marriage lasts 3 years. So
Why? I mean, like, is it because of like, because there's something that I've always looked to talk about or bring up that I learned is that there's three things that, you know, couples or people in relationships can look to focus on is that they have a similar mission, the similar values to accomplish the mission, and then similar interests because they are going to spend majority of their life with this person. So is it a matter of a lack of clarity, or is it a matter of like we just don't have a similar mission? So why am I staying together
I
with
think
this
it's more
person?
of a lack of clarity because people are scared to have uncomfortable conversations, right?
Mhm.
And I don't want to get off on a whole
No,
thing
no, no,
about
no. I
it, but
think
I'll do it. I'll do
no,
it. I'll
but
tell
it's
you.
Well,
this
no,
So
I think it's still
relationships.
relatable in the
Yeah,
sense that because it's not really about
like a
relationship
20%.
or partnership. It's talking. It's I mean, it is partnership in all of it, right? And
yeah,
so when you're talking about business,
Mhm,
personal, it's about earlier we were talking about qualifying people,
mhm.
right? Qualifying the people you share your space with, business with. So I think it's just going back to when you talk about getting that clarity. What does that look for
well,
you?
it's just like a prenuptial conversation, right? Most people will not have that conversation because it's an uncomfortable one to do. However, I think 75% of people that get married end up having that conversation with a divorce attorney many years down the line, and that's a
Yeah,
lot more
Have it with me
uncomfortable.
that
now or a divorce
You
attorney
know,
later.
that makes
yeah.
sense.
So it's a matter of do it. I mean, do what you got to do. You got to make sure that everybody's on the same boat. I hope I didn't steal your water. I think I did. But yeah, so it's just a matter of everybody's got to be on the same page.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we live in a society that often requires two
Two
incomes in
households.
order to keep things going, and we've always got our eyes, right? Always got our eyes. That's why I only use one so I can stay focused. But we've always got our eyes on what everybody else is doing. We're peeking outside of our lane, and
Right, instead of focusing on what it looks like for you and
you know,
I type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
everybody's
Yeah.
gonna be oh man, I look at this guy, he's only 20, he's making whatever online. I mean, that's one guy out of like 7 billion. It's not like I don't
Right.
just trip over multimillionaires that are 25 years old that are all doing it on their terms and things
Absolutely.
like that.
Right.
So it's very rare. So I mean, it's just unfortunate that people
People
get
get
they,
so in comparison,
yeah.
like comparison is the thief of joy instead of like comparing, like because you're comparing yourself to someone else instead of comparing
Mhm.
yourself to who
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
be.
And
You know.
you're your only competitor. You're the
Mhm.
only person that's in your way. You're the only person. I mean, I'm just speaking from my experience. I'm the only person that's ever stopped me from doing anything. I'm the only person that's ever messed up anything because I made certain decisions, and somewhere down the line, I could have made a different decision, and there'd have been a whole different outcome, right? So, yeah, if we can just stay out of our own way, kind of get an eye on the prize that allows us to focus on that and not worry about what everybody else is doing because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
some people are gonna get theirs in their 20s. Some people are gonna get theirs in their 50s.
Mhm.
Colonel Sanders didn't get his till the 60s.
Right.
Same with the McDonald's fellow. So I
Right.
mean,
So what would you say then? Like I remember at a point, I'd fear making a decision. Randy, you often say, well, whether you make a decision
Decision
or
or
don't
not,
make a decision, you've made a decision.
you're gonna pay a price.
So how did you get more confident or comfortable in making decisions? Intentional about decisions? Failures, role in all of that.
well, I made certain I was competent enough, right? So, and it's very easy to get competent these days. I mean, you can, let's circle back to the AI. I mean, you can put in there and teach me this. What 20 questions should I ask before I do this? I mean, there's so many different ways you can use it to educate yourself, and you can educate it overnight if you want to. But, most people just doesn't interest them. It doesn't interest them. There's just not a lot of interest, and that's good because if there was a lot of interest, then it would probably be a little bit more difficult to do, or it wouldn't be worth doing, or they change it because everybody's taking advantage of it. I mean, if the whole country was doing the every 2 year thing, and the government wasn't getting all these property taxes that they're getting, there might be a change. So I mean, it's good that the few don't do it. What they say, the few or many are called, few few
Partially,
answer.
yeah.
Yeah, you know. So I mean, it's good. So if you're listening or you're taking
Or just makes
advice
sense.
from anybody up here, that's just take that advice and be of the few that walk the road that leads to
Of
where you
less
want to
travel.
go
Yeah.
instead of hoping. I mean, that's what most people do, hope. You know, I mean, yeah, one day my ship's gonna come in, or one day my my plane's gonna land. It's just not going to happen. You have to take actionable steps towards
Yeah.
making these things happen, and you can. And if you learn and you pay attention and you find people that know better than you and you pay them, that's another thing. A lot of people don't want to. The game is sold and not told. A lot of people don't want to pay. They want to. They'd rather.
Game is so.
No, that's true. I mean, because a lot of times it's like, okay, you want to avoid that one. You listen to everything else, but you'll avoid that one gem,
Mhm.
right? And I always say, it's like, what's the investment that you're looking to make? It's just whole change thought, whole change just attitude about something. Is when you're willing to invest, or you're going to cheapen the quality, right?
Mhm.
Because you
You don't know. I think, and it goes back to actually the Millionaire Fast Lane when he talks about this. There's the sidewalk, there's the slow lane, then there's the fast lane. But either way, the fast lane is you're gonna have to utilize something that actually propels you forward, and so that's usually an investment or a business or an opportunity that has a direct line of influence to how many people you can impact. So it's like real estate is always going to be one of those things that someone always needs a roof over their head. So I think it depends on how your strategy of how you get in or get out the game.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, everything's strategy. Just think out a plan. Figure out what it is you want first. I mean, because not everybody wants that. But I would do a nominal factoring in of my comfort starting out in life, especially these days. I wouldn't be concerned with that at all. I would be concerned with roof over my head, privacy. Even if it's a little condo, little
Something just
duplex, anything that you can get a tax break, especially if you're working a W-9 job. I mean, that's pretty much the only tax write-off you're going to have is your the interest on your mortgage. I think it is. So, you got to do it. You've got to do it. You've got to do it. And interest rates are spooky, especially compared to what we've been used to with the pandemic prices and stuff. But it's still traditionally low, and you're marrying the house, you're not marrying the mortgage. So you need to, go ahead and bite the bullet, refinance when you can. And, if the past is any indicator of the future, these prices are going to continue to go up.
Yeah.
And, be an owner when these companies do come buy everything up, right? So
not if, yeah.
not if, but when, right? So when they do, be an owner, because that's going to be.
It's gonna pay dividends. Yeah.
I really appreciate just the logic in it all. Just listening to you, just the whole conversation. It's just not really an emotional thing. It's really strategic, and a lot of times I think we get caught up in how things feel. I know it when I see it. I like it when it feels. It just doesn't feel like the right time. And and you listen to you, and you're like, who's talking about your feelings?
Well, yeah, behind your feelings, often you'll find nothing, nothing at all. Really, that's why.
No, it's very true.
Yeah,
It's very true.
Oftentimes your feelings.
Because a lot of people don't care how you feel.
Well, nobody cares. Nobody cares how you feel. I mean, Uncle Sam certainly doesn't care. Boss certainly doesn't care. I mean, nobody cares. So you've got to kind of factor that out. And what's the most logical thing they can do? What's the smartest thing I can do? How have those that have come before me or those that are doing it now? What are they doing? How are they on the rise? How are they coming up? And it's not worrying about how they feel. I can certainly tell you that. It's not. There's a ton of podcasters and influencers that get on there and tell you, feelings don't mean nothing. Have the disciplines. The disciplines. You got to have the disciplines, and you got to have the ability to learn and implement and use. And feelings are just a root of how you think. There's only problems when you decide there's problems. Whether that's in business or relationships, anything like that. Most things aren't problems. We just make them problems, and the next thing you know, we're spending all of our energy
worrying,
arguing and worrying, and in the assumption realm, and most of it never even comes to pass. Most of us spend our whole life worrying about things that never happen.
Yes.
I think, and it goes back to being like fear driven almost. Like you're worried about what's not, as you're saying, what's not real. Like it's almost like a fictitious demon that we've put into our own minds.
It is you've told yourself a story, right? And none of it's happened. It's all imagined. Everything that you're, well, what if this, and
it's all hypotheticals.
it's all hypotheticals, and someone was saying, like, if you live in a world of hypotheticals, you'll never move forward.
Mhm.
And most people, you ask people, it's like, how are you really effective? We talk about personal economy versus national economy. Like, amen. This, the economy is always going to happen in the background. And yet, what about you? Like, what is your personal economy doing? What decisions can you make based on what is happening in your world? And I think we just focus more about that versus comparing ourselves or getting lost in a world of hypotheticals. We move forward.
Even in, like, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, he talks about that if you want to say evade the devil, one of the most powerful things you can do is think for yourself.
Oh yeah, yeah, because That's a good book too. I listened to it on YouTube. It was really entertaining. I
No,
really
it's a
like
very
that.
good book. It's a
Yeah, I
very
really
book
like that.
because a lot of
And one of the
distractions in
main
this world.
points in that book is the devil's main trick, or whatever negative energy you want to call it, is getting people to drift.
Yes, drifting,
Right,
the power of drifting.
drifting, right?
Yeah,
Like drifting, just kind of
all the
without
distractions.
noticing it. Years pass by, little action is taken, and then you wake up one day and you go, wow,
Wow.
I can't believe I didn't tend to that garden. The weeds have taken it over now.
Then it goes back to Parkinson's law about that it doesn't have to take 3, 4, or 5 hours for you to complete a task. It could take you an hour. It's the same thing with purchasing a home. It could take you a year, it could take you 2 years, or it could take you 90 days,
Well,
60 days.
people that have timelines make decisions. You know what I'm saying? And so usually it's like when that pain gets strong enough, you will do the things. Glenn is saying,
Pain
you
versus
haven't
pleasure.
made a decision to buy or move because you're comfortable. You're comfortable in your apartment. It does all the stuff. You can't really compare anything else because you're living in this lavish state. And yet, if we were able to say, okay, a goal is simple: is do this, go from A to B by when. That's it. Then you do it and you adjust as necessary, whatever it plays out. Yet that drift is something because, like, just even the visual of it,
Like getting so
it doesn't feel painful.
I mean, I think it's the
No,
same
it's
thing.
You just wake up in the middle of the ocean, like
yeah, in the lagoon, and
The
looking back at the
gulags.
shore.
Said the gulags.
A lagoon, like you're off the shore, but yeah, it's a slow drift, and it's all the more easier with all the distractions we have today and all the everything vying for our attention, So yeah, you have to say, okay, man, this is where I want to go, and this is how I'm going to get it, and hands down, the home ownership is the easiest path to wealth in the United States. Now, I didn't say the most comfortable path, but I said the easiest. It's much easier because even if the market goes down, if you're an investor, you may have to worry about that if prices go down. But if you're in a mortgage that you can afford comfortably, you don't have to sell the house because the market's gone down. You can continue to pay the mortgage and continue to live there because you'll have to live somewhere anyway, and then you can wait for it to come back. As far as I can tell, it goes in cycles, and there's ups and downs. A lot more ups and downs. I mean, I know houses my grandma paid $7,000 for are now $1 million houses. In the Heights area and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it just hang tight, hang out, ride out the storms, and bat down the hatches is what I say.
And I think it like just focusing in on the pain versus pleasure, because even sometimes in sales or even business, you talk about that's going to reach a point in time where you are in so much pain that you will change. And then if you don't, then you can't expect your circumstances to change.
No, they won't. They won't. I mean, they'll get worse. They'll change. They'll get worse. Rarely get better. But yeah, you just gotta, like I said, it's everybody has a decision, and I think a lot of people are just a little bit too nearsighted, a little bit too focused on
What's
the
happening now,
things, right?
Yeah.
The things. I gotta have this. I gotta have that, and I can't compromise on that. Yeah, it's just you make compromises, make sacrifices, get your home, get into the path of home ownership, take advantage of the tax benefits while we have them, and
make the most of it.
Make the most of it, because I can tell you that had I been doing it, and I hadn't, I've done it a couple times, but I hadn't done it like if I'd have done it every 2 years, boom, 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 every 2 years. I mean, I'd had a couple million extra dollars, laying around. I could do whatever I want, and it certainly wouldn't be what I didn't want to do. I can tell you that.
And I think that, it's just forward thinking. We talk about how you might, use this as a strategy to fund your retirement, or when you're not, trying to do all that stuff. You know, you're not trying to go out here and run out here and manage this. You know, you're really being able to think about your future self for real. Again, how long you keep pushing that out. So, you know, I appreciate just the whole perspective on it. I don't know if people are prepared for that.
No, maybe not, but that's the only one I have. I can't. I can't. When you have one eye, the depth perception is completely off. So I'm lucky to grab this cup every time I reach for it. But no, that's the only view I have on it, and that's just from the actual, like you say, pain or pleasure. Well, that I have that perspective from the pain of not doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sitting tight. Well, this is close to the office. I'll just stay here, or you know, the kids are happy in school, and who cares? Those kids are going to grow up and not appreciate anything you did anyway. So who cares? Might as well be rich when they do.
That is. so so
Shrinks aren't cheap to pay for, you know. So if you got to put your kids through,
shrinks aren't cheap. What? So okay, so okay, so let's say it's 2025, right? Where do you kind of even see yourself?
oh, I don't
No.
know, man. That's a tough answer. It's tough to even with what like I've said, I've been really into all this AI stuff and really just putting all these pieces together and seeing how things work and seeing more than anything what's possible. Um, from what I understand, it's everything's doubling in power or tripling in power every 2 months. So there's no telling. There's no telling. But so what you've got to do is you got to take advantage of the now. You know,
Right.
that's another thing that we can
Right.
get lost in is, you know, 2-year plans, 3-year plans, 5-year plans.
What are you doing today?
What are you doing today? And I'll tell you where I see myself. I will be shortly selling the house I'm in now, and then I will be buying another one, and then I will be reselling that. So 2025 will be 2-year cutoff, and I'll be doing the taking advantage of the capital gains tax exemption. So that for sure I'll be doing it. As far as anything else, who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. It could be CEO somewhere. I could be, you know, doing favors on some app somewhere. Who knows?
Doing favors.
Yeah, you know, it's the gig economy. Right? You heard about this?
You know,
Yo,
it's a something like this. You know,
yeah, it's like what doing favors. I mean,
you know,
That's what it is. Like, can you go to the grocery store for you? You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be picking up dry cleaning
That
before
is
you know,
true.
they have all sorts of stuff. So I mean, you know,
That is
I
true.
hope
That
that
is true.
things outside of my control will allow for me to continue to, you know, stay pretty competitive in whatever business field I'm in. But if they're not, then you know,
So
do the
be
best we can. We'll get by,
Of
and
course.
you know, we'll all band together and we'll make it happen. That's what we'll do.
Most definitely.
I'd like to get your perspective on just thinking big. You know, Randy and I were both talking about just some of our early throwback experiences with you. And I remember one that I shared. We were in a class together. We were actually in Austin. And I actually do believe we were writing a life plan or a life look back or something to our future selves. And I remember that was probably well, I'm not going to say first, but we were paired together.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing or reading what you wrote. And I almost wanted to take what I wrote. Just never mind. I didn't understand the assignment. I didn't do it correctly. And yet I just was impressed by how big and how intentional you were thinking. Like just beyond really, I even had the foresight to think about. Like I had never ever thought about that. So I'm curious on like just how you get that and you know, what's your perspective on that?
Well, you got to realize that anything is truly possible. Anything is truly possible, especially in this day and age. And if you take the steps to prepare yourself, you know, like it goes back, we'll tie it back to the army thing, or you know, just the armed services in general. You don't begin as a SEAL, you don't begin as a Green Beret, right? But you can have that goal, and now you can say, okay, what do I need to do in order to get there? That's the cool thing is that there's a model for everything, right? That's the really cool thing. So no matter how big and crazy or wild and far-fetched your ideas may seem to the people around you or even to yourself, there is a model to do it. Somebody else has done it. Yeah, and if you just like they always tell us, we were in the class. They made it very clear. You master the foundation, you master the fundamentals, you build upon that, right? And then you can innovate, but you don't do that until the fundamentals are mastered. You're working the same model that people that have achieved the types of things you want to are working, and you've mastered that. Then you can get a little crazy and get a little
It's like
funky.
that diagram where it says, you know, models before creativity.
Correct.
A lot of times,
that's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
people get into any business or anything and just kind of like, oh, I'm just start being creative,
No.
you know, and they're just coming out with like all of these random million ideas, and there's somebody that's saying like you're about to run into the wall. It's like you watch a horror movie, you're like, yeah, you're gonna die. If you run that way, and everybody's seen this before, you somebody thinks, okay, I'm a little bit more creative than the 2023 years before me, and I'm pretty sure I can just wing it, you know.
No, you're not. You're not. It's not going to work, and it's gonna. I think that's why there's such a massive a rate of failure in the real estate business for people that get in, is because they do just that. They go and go to all the classes you want. They tell you get the listings, then the buyers come with the listings, and you know they tell you how to do it. They tell you, but then when they go, oh, you know what, that's great, but I think I'm going to focus on buyers, or I'm going to go and I'm going to lease houses out to everybody, right? You know, they try to pick a niche that's not what
That's
the
not
model
serving you.
says.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not serving you.
it run you out of business if you that's what happens if you try to innovate from the beginning and you don't go with a proven model that there's results and data to back it, and you plow through that data. You don't just take a leap of faith on it. You actually look at, okay, I see, I can watch the development of this individual's career that I'm modeling my business after, and you make those same steps. There's no reason to put new footprints on the trail. You just follow the ones that are there. And like she said, once you get to the mastery level of those foundational fundamental basics, then you can begin to innovate, and then you can try new things and you can get creative. But you don't want to do that until you've got a solid foundation. You don't want to start building crazy stuff off the roof that may catch the wind and rip it off till you know that the foundation is good. At least that'll be there. So yeah, it's yeah. Do what has been done before and plug in whatever kind of new cool tools you have that are going to be available to you for relatively cheap, and you'll do well.
So where does being learning based come in then? I mean, has that always been you, or just because, right? It's like, how do you know you're dealing with a model? How do you know what the foundation is? So just the power of being, both of you guys were talking about, reading, outwitting the devil. So being a learning based person, developing your personal self, right? Your business grows to the extent that you do. And so what does that look like for you? And,
Well, for me, I had an advantage because I never got a diploma other than a GED or any kind of college diploma or anything. So what I think what happens is when people get those, those types of degrees and stuff like that, they go, yes, I've done it. My education is over. I've learned the things, and there's the paper that says that I am qualified. And if you don't have that paper, you're constantly, at least me, because I'm self-conscious and I'm hard on myself. So I didn't ever feel like I was good enough. So how dare I not be continually trying to improve and add more value and be a player, because I'm not going to be a player just bumping around and not trying to learn, not going to the seminars, not going to the workshops. Like you mentioned, that one we went in Austin, I don't know how much it was. That was an expensive class. I think it was north of 3,000 or 5,000, something like that. It was expensive, but I went there and I built an entire real estate team based off of that model, and it's paid off millions of dollars for going to that class and going to stuff like that. I think it was just a feeling of being inferior, and seeing that I can remedy that by learning and improving, and taking my self education to the next level. And whether that's however you learn, you like to listen, you like to read, you like to watch, but everything's available to you now. You can learn it. But yeah, I think that's the advantage, is that you don't get that sense of achievement for a diploma like most people do. It's because once they feel that sense of achievement, then they're
it's like a subconscious block.
Yeah,
Because like you said, it's like, well, this thing has told me, and the power of just being in rooms. And sometimes the value is not the training. I remember somebody was like, why would somebody take this training over and over and over again? And there's that quote that says, the man never steps in the same river twice. Either man's different or the river's different. Yet even beyond that, just the power of collaborative conversation, right? Because it's like, okay, I never looked at it that way. I never thought about that. Or even if you're just, everything's going over your head. I've been in plenty of rooms where I've just put my pen down, and I'm just gonna listen. I can't contribute to this conversation, and yet it was still valuable because at least now my mind is thinking about it. Because before I walked through the door, I didn't even know it was something to think about.
For sure.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, you have to like we talked about earlier, with the people that aligning yourself and spending time with folks that are going to have that kind of impact on you. And it's a little more difficult now. It's hard to find like a mentor, like back in the days. People would take you under the wing or whatever. I don't know that that's all the case anymore. I
I
think it's
don't
a little
think
more
so.
difficult.
I think we once talked about that. Just like because people always say, "Oh, I want a mentor, mentor, mentor."
Yeah,
A mentor is not going to have if the mentor that you want probably won't have time for you.
exactly. He doesn't have time for you.
Because and that's why I always say that's the power of coming from a servant spirit, right? And what can you find yourself of value? I remember I used to live in Atlanta. I was working on a set, and I just was kind of hanging out. Somebody in my man was like, "Man, this is great. I'm having fun and everything like that." And I'm keeping an ear out to director, and time he said he needs something, I run, I go find it, right? And I go back, right? And I kept doing it, and eventually they were like, "Hey, make sure she comes with me because whatever." I wasn't even supposed to be on this thing. I wasn't even qualified, to your point, to do it.
Yeah.
There's no reason why this person should even, he needed to be calling security more than anything. And yet, because you come from a certain position, that's how you're able to get into relationship with people like mentors. And a lot of times now you'll see stuff like, "Oh, I have this," and they don't want to pay them.
No, no,
They
no.
they don't want to go to the workshops, but then they're like, "Why won't anybody help me?" "Oh, it's my team's fault, my broker's fault, my parents' fault."
Yeah, it's everybody's fault but yours. And that's another thing. You have to take 100% responsibility for what you know, what you do, and who you are. And if you do that, you can change all those things. You can change what you know, you can change what you do, and changing those two things will definitely change who you are and what value you bring. And you'll get paid in direct relation with the amount of value you bring to the marketplace. So if you're not
Facts.
getting paid, means you're lacking in
How much
value
value
somewhere.
you're
So
giving to the marketplace.
and
Yeah.
if you can find that, identify that, and make the necessary adjustments, who knows how far you can go? Really, really, really far. Anything's possible. Only in America, like Don King says. Only in America.
Are you a big believer in paying for information?
Yeah, I am. But I'm also uh, from the era where you had to. You couldn't,
Just walk in
you
or
couldn't just
just
pop onto YouTube and learn everything you want, and you couldn't just follow certain people on, this social media platform, whatever, and learn what you want. You had to buy the book, or you had to go to the course, or you couldn't even take the online stuff. You couldn't take Zoom course. You couldn't do that. You had to drive down. And, I got my real estate license. Like, I had to go there and start at like 8 and then into like 6, and you fail the test because you're dumb, at least I was, and then you have to take it again and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was you had to, like, even with a library card, like, you used to have to go,
to
at
the
least
library
they'll give you the card for free, but you got to go down
and
to
pay
the
for things?
library. Now I mean, everything is at your fingertips, and unfortunately a lot of us, we get sidetracked with just kind of junk food content that we consume.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what would you say is that one piece of advice, looking maybe even forward or looking backwards, that you would give to that 18-year-old or that 20-year-old that is indecisive right now?
I would say, I would tell them that other people's opinions of you are none of your business, and you need to stay away from drinking, stay away from drugs, stay away from anything that's going to sidetrack you from becoming the best you that you can be, and see what happens. And good things will happen if you do good things will happen. I mean, I'm a big believer in what goes around comes around, and being pleasant, nice, and easy. Somebody that's of service comes from a point of contribution. They're going to get. They may not get to exactly where they want, but they're going to get to a awesome, comfortable life, especially in comparison with the experience that majority of the rest of the world is going through.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, certainly, certainly.
I think that's powerful. I think that's powerful. I think it is easy to get caught up in what other people think instead of what you think about yourself. And so now you're doing things for others instead of your future self.
Yeah, man, who are those? What do they know? Would be my question. I mean, most people that tell you can't be done are people that can't do stuff. So why would you,
I like
what
that.
do you know,
No,
man?
I
I
like
mean,
that. I like that.
whenever I get ready to fail, I'll come ask you how to do that, is what I'd say to them, But as far as winning, I'm going to ask a winner. I'm going to, get the winner's book, or I'm going to follow them on whatever, and I'm going to listen to it. So, I mean, yeah, you just have to just, and a big thing about that is don't share your ideas with people. A lot of times we expect people to we
Pour
tell them
into
our dream, and then we expect them to go, oh my God, and then help us any way they can. They don't owe us anything. It's your dream. You got to make it come true, or it's your goal. You got to make it come true. You can't expect people to hear your idea, drop their dream, and then pour everything into yours. That's just ridiculous. You know, I mean, everybody's got what they want to do, and most of the time, it's not going to be what you want to do. So keep your thoughts to yourself. Don't make any mention of it until you got proof of work or proof of concept. Then you can start talking to everybody about it, because then you won't need advice. You'll know what to do.
Yeah.
Facts. I like that.
Randy, final thoughts?
Commit to the process, and then the result is inevitable.
Yeah.
That'll be one of the biggest things that I would tell my youngest self.
Absolutely. And I think success leaves clues. You know, there's somebody here that's done it before you. They figured it out. They've done the thing. They failed. They've learned from it. And who do you know that you need to be in relationship with going to the next year? And are you clear on what you want before you ask somebody else to help you get there?
Thanks.
I like it.
Just want to say thank you so much for your time.
Oh man, it was great. I had a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for showing up.
Thank you so much for the
Thank you so
conversation. I
much.
told you I love you. All right. We'll
Thank you
see
for
guys soon.
listening. Thank you for listening to another episode of Bet on T. Craig. We shall be back with another one. Let's get into it.